Fine time.
Hey everybody, it's your boy Dre, and we're back. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on Namco Museum, the PlayStation era. If you haven't heard part 1, check the description of this podcast to hear that. But if you're all caught up with us, we're going to continue to part 2 right now. All right, we're here. Looks good. Air smells nice. Namco Museum, number 3. Imagine if there was a real Namco Museum and it literally just said like Namco Museum Volume 3 on it or something.
That's so weird. There are different parts of different parts of Japan. You gotta go to like a different prefecture to get to Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah, Volume 1 is in Shibuya. Sorry, this is Gifu. We gotta. Oh man, Volume 3 is on the Kyushu Islands or something.
I really want that toy pop space. I guess I gotta get a bullet train.
Oh man, so we're here. Let's go to the front desk. Let's hit that bell and let's hear the lineup for Namco Museum Volume 3. The lineup includes Galaxian from 1979, Miss Pac-Man, 1982, Dig Dug, also from 1982, Phozon, which came out in 1983, Pole Position 2, also from 1983, and The Tower of Druaga from the year 1984.
Oh, Druaga.
Oh, Druaga. Man, sorry if anyone out there likes Tower of Druaga. We are about to talk mad shit.
It's good for the motif, though, but I guess I'll get into that.
Right. And before we get started, we should mention that both Tower of Druaga and Phozon never came out in North American arcades, so they were freshly translated for us for release in this Namco Museum Volume 3, although I think Druaga may have already been in English. I think
it has text in English. I'm pretty hazy, but Phozon definitely like the opening and instruction text. That was all in Japanese until Volume 3.
Yeah, because even our Arcade Archives release of Phozon it's in Japanese. They don't. So the English text that Namco made for these volumes must be unto itself for these particular releases, which is cool.
Sure it is. That's great. Yeah.
Do you like how in Namco Museum Switch, they don't even bother doing that anymore? They just overlay the English text with a black box, like overlay the original graphics with like this 1080p ass like text box. It's like it's
super
weird,
crisp. You know what? I actually don't mind it, partially because I think just editing ROMs is just kind of an involved endeavor, I guess. They managed to do it back for these, though, which is kind of interesting, but I guess if they really gotta get a bunch of languages in there, I guess having the black box with the text on top is the most cost-effective solution, rather than getting all M2 with it. Wait, what? Who said it?
Well, since, as the wiki mentioned, these are object-level recreations and they're not emulation, they can do whatever the hell they want. Mm-hmm. It's probably a lot easier for them to go in and say, hey, we're going to replace this shit with English text, versus like editing an actual ROM takes, probably more work. I don't know how this shit works, but I would assume that's the case.
Yeah, editing's got to be colossally annoying, yeah.
All right, I'm going to have you tell us about the CGI intro for Namco Museum Volume 3. So do your voice exercises, put on your best announcer voice, get excited. Don't sound like the guy from the Pac-Man Museum Plus trailer.
He's hype as hell, dude. He's hella hype, man. Yeah. That's amazing. Didn't they use it for some other? I think they used it for like another trailer. It was like a Taiko no Tatsujin like opening. I think.
They used him for that too. All right,
Pac-Man
arrangement console or whatever. Yeah.
Please try to dial back. The hype knob is going to get dialed.
All right. Are you ready? Cue the music now.
A darkened labyrinth flashes as the hulking Druaga waves his arms around for some reason. The scene then cuts to Gil, who opens a chest. But to his surprise, Pac-Man jumps out and immediately skateboards off camera. The Tower of Druaga logo flashes as Pac-Man jumps out of the tower and lands on an awning. Suddenly, we see a road with a giant pothole with cars passing by, and then we're treated to the Pole Position 2 logo. A whole bunch of puka jump out of the hole as a Dig Dug logo appears. Pac-Man also climbs out of the hole, because of course he would. A ship and an alien fly above as they're locked in aerial combat before the Galaxian logo appears. Pac-Man continues to skateboard through town when he passes by a monitor with some mysterious molecules accompanied by the Phozon logo. Pac-Man passes random denizens before he encounters Ms. Pac-Man. He waves hello before we see the Pac-Man logo, but wait! It squishes itself to make room for Ms. Pac-Man! Pac-Man stylishly jumps off his skateboard, grabs it as it conveniently falls, and walks hand in hand with Ms. Pac-Man towards the museum.
Well, I have a lot to say here. First of all, I'm glad he reunited with Miss Pac-Man. She didn't appear to be in Volume 2 in space or whatever. So, she's helping him out again, getting to the museum.
There's one too many spaceships.
Yeah, this is such a weird opening because with the way the logos, it's almost like credits, almost like a sitcom, like Phozon, it like freezes the screen. It's like, boom, pole position 2, boom. Why the fuck did the puka just come out of the ground like that? That didn't make any sense.
Where else would they exit?
That's so stupid. I can't. The more I think about that, might be the stupidest intro. Like, I think Volume 4 coming up is pretty stupid, but this is almost like you have. Okay, have you ever done the thing in school where it's like, here are your spelling words for the week? You have to write like a paragraph using the spelling words.
Yeah, I've done that.
And you just have to like shoehorn them in. That's what this feels like. Like someone's just shoehorning in all the games.
I'm shoehorning puka underneath the pole position course.
I didn't even see the pole position car when it flashed pole position. I'm like, was that supposed to be the race car? I didn't even see it. And then whatever, man.
Signs point towards yes.
I guess because it said pole position 2. Anyway,
so it's true.
It said so it's true, right? The loading animation this time is Gil from Tower of Druaga, but it's not his Tower of Druaga sprite. It's from the sequel Return of Ishtar for some reason.
Really? Oh, so it's such a weird cut, huh? I don't know.
Yeah, it's really strange. You would have think they would have saved that for Volume 4 when the Return of Ishtar actually appears, but
right, yeah, that would have made sense. Yeah, but speaking of weird though, you can't seemingly make the little animations go super fast anymore. Like it'll just move fast on its own when it's about to be done loading, but you can't mash no D-pad no more for that back and forth action. I don't know why they got rid of it, but I guess it was unnecessary.
I mean, I like little loading animation stuff like that, though. I don't know.
That's fun. That's fun.
You know what my favorite one is, and I'll never get tired of it, is the spinning disc. Not like the disc spinning on its axis, like literally spinning around 360, but spinning as if it were in a disc drive, like flat.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah,
like kind of that rapid. Like I like that. I don't know. I always like that one. So let's talk about the museum, and this time there's much more to talk about because Volume 2, there wasn't much. It was the same layout as Volume 1. Volume 3 is completely different, and for a lot of reasons. So there's a new title screen image. Volume 1 and 2 have the same title screen image and song. There's totally new music. The music that plays when you look at an object is bumping. That shit is so good. Mm-hmm. It's great. While doing notes and stuff, I made sure to like sit on an object and listen to that shit while typing into the phone this and that, because it's just
that's what got you going. It got your creative juices going.
Yeah, it's a jam, man. It's a jam.
It is. Yeah.
But we do have some bad news. There's no more 60 frames a second presentation. From Volume 3 onward, we have a 30 frames a second presentation. Womp womp.
Yeah, womp womp. It earns it, though. It really does.
It does earn it, and that's the thing. People think I'm a frame rate monster because I am, but the thing I always say about it, if you're going to do 30, make it worth it, and they made it worth it. The lobby now has stairs that lead into a foyer, so like no more marble octagon. And like you walk in and the receptionist is right there, Uketsuke, as we established. And there's stairs on either side of her desk that you could go up to where the 6 rooms are. So it's still a little bit of an octopus design, but it feels a lot more fresh to me then.
Yeah, it really looks more like a museum if you get down to it, right? Because, I mean, it's got that sort of like elegant sort of like look. It's actually like encapsulating that sort of fanciness.
It's cool. I like the way it looks. I think it definitely, I don't know. I didn't hate the way the first 2 looked, but I wouldn't even necessarily say Volume 3 looks better. Like it really comes down to like aesthetic, really what you like to see. But I do like the way this looks a lot. There's no more cuts to a black now loading screen anymore in the museum. So when you go up to a door, there's like a short pause with the same thing, the Pac-Man icon that's, sort of represents the player, if you will. It holds up the now loading sign like usual. And then the door just swings open. So it's like, it's kind of seamless, which is honestly pretty nice, I think.
Then that just plays into the motif even more.
Yeah. There's much faster loading and easier viewing of promotional materials. I think we haven't really talked about this yet. Volume 1 and 2, man, that is some loading. Like you are loading a lot. For everything, for every promotional material. Even if you just want to zoom into it, you're loading for that screen too. And everything. And Volume 3 takes out a lot of that because not only is it seamless, but it's worth it because it's just a few seconds pause versus like, here's an entire loading screen. So you can look at a pop card for like Bosconian.
Yeah, it's really the number of loading screens in Volume 1 and 2 they get to me. Well, they don't get to me like that bad, but like it's very noticeable compared to Volume 3. Like actually like transitioning like that over and over and over and over to a black screen and then the object and back and forth. That's more noticeable than just like going to black. It's just the sheer numbers. There's so many of them.
Yeah, it happens for every single thing. And look, that was CD-ROM media at the time, right? We hadn't really figured out how to optimize that shit. But again, we talk about the ingenuity of over a short amount of time, just them iterating on this concept. They figured it out. And when we get to Volume 5, they really figured it out. But sure for Volume 3, you can see the big improvements here. That's probably, in retrospect, that's probably why they made Volume 1 and 2 the same, because they didn't want to fuck with Volume 2 too much, because they're like, okay, on Volume 3, we're really gonna do some shit. Because if they had worked that hard on Volume 2, Volume 3 wouldn't have been what it is.
Yeah, that's a good guess, actually. Yeah, that makes sense. And again, like when you iterate or when you reuse assets, it really helps speed things along. So yeah, they're lining up their ducks or putting their eggs in like another basket, right? Yeah, something like that. That makes sense.
There is one downgrade though to this, in my opinion, and it's the how to play sign is now just like a fuzzy monitor, like a 90s ass, like snow. We don't even see that anymore on HD TVs, but like, back in the day when you get the wrong channel, it's snow. It's that. And it just says how to play over it. They got rid of Professor Pac-Man. Why would you get rid of Professor Pac?
That's messed up. Yeah, that actually takes a lot of character out. I don't understand.
Yeah, what the fuck? I mean, come on.
What are you doing to our professors, Namco?
Yeah, what are you doing to our professor? Hashtag justice for Professor Pac. Come on.
Justice going all the way back to the 90s, yes.
Buying time.
Oh man.
Shit, where do we start with these rooms? Because there's quite a bit to say. Overall, I don't know if I like these rooms overall better than 2, but there is some interesting stuff in here for sure. I'm trying to think of where to start. I guess I'll start with the Galaxian room because I think it's so cool. So First of all, we didn't mention this yet. Volume 3 adds unique themed hallways leading up to the game room now. Before in Volume 1 and 2, it's just the same marble motif until you get to the game room, and then that's unique. Now, whenever you go in the door in the hallway, that's also themed like the game you're about to go to, which is a lot more work on their part, and that's what they really stepped up here.
Yeah.
So the Galaxian hallway looks appropriately spacey and sterile, you know, with that like that sci-fi future fonts and stuff. You ever been to like Star Tours at Disneyland? It has like that like font.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when you enter the Galaxian room, it's this tunnel that lights up with those like long triangular lights, like some Star Wars type shit, like one of those hallways where they just zap some like stormtroopers real quick, you know, like one of those kind of hallways. And then this leads to like the main hangar where all these like warning lights come on and start like filling the room with these colored flashes. I don't know if it's real time lighting, but even if it probably is, it's really simple and it is 30 frames a second.
I think it is. I think it was, yeah.
Because it's not reflecting off of anything but itself. So it's not like it has characters to think about like lighting up or anything like that. So it's probably real time. The ship, the Galaxian ship, slides into the hangar and then like takes off into space like through the ceiling. It's all set to this like super heroic music that again does not appear in Galaxian because it's from 1979. So I don't know where they got this music from. Maybe Galaxian Squared or something. I don't know. It's super cool. The Galaxian room really made me happy.
Galaxian would be really weird if it had epic music in the background while you're playing. That would change the whole game. I don't think that's that'd be a very different experience.
That would be insane. That would be absolutely insane.
You want to talk about insanity, though? I gotta talk about Ms. Pac-Man's room because that's like a trip, right?
Oh boy, here we go. Yeah, go for it.
So the area leading up to the cabin, right? It actually makes a callback to Volume 1's Pac-Man room. It has that sort of like yard. It's a little more detailed. I think it has like flower patches and some other details, but this time, like the Pac-Man, like, you want to call it I guess it's a house, right? It's a house.
It's a house. It's a house.
The house's doors open this time, so you can go inside. And once you go inside, you better prepare to have your brain melted because right away, you got a vocal track that says, Miss Pac-Man.
Miss Pac-Man.
It's a crazy song that greets you right off. I think the vocals start just like that. Miss Pac-Man. I don't even know how it goes. Like it's
so chirpy and upbeat. And speaking of upbeat, there's a 3D model of Miss Pac-Man and the dog. I forget the dog's name off the top of my head, but
I don't know.
Miss Pac-Man's got super long legs and maybe like borderline human-like proportions. I'm like, why are her legs so long, man? It's so weird.
I think it's a personification of like our US cabinet art where she's like crossing her legs like, ooh, I'm sexy. I'm a girl now. I'm Miss Pac-Man. maybe it's like a personification of that. And if that's true, it's funny that Namco Japan saw that and it's like, yeah, that's what they think of Miss Pac-Man.
That's what those Americans are gonna want. This super long leg in 3D Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Americans,
there's a television in the room and it has Miss Pac-Man's head on an American flag. Like, why would a television be flashing the American flag? And why would that flag have Miss Pac-Man's head on it? It doesn't make any sense. It's so weird.
It's insane. Like, I saw that. It's like, do they really think like are Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man supposed to be American? I mean, I understand it's an American creation. At the same time, like,
The American hero, Miss Pac-Man. This is a shout out to you.
But why does she have her own American flag, Miss Pac-Man American flag, on her own TV in her own house? She's watching like the Miss Pac-Man channel, and it's just there.
It apparently is very patriotic for some awkward reason. It's just such a weird thing, and like she's dancing and she's got some animated eye textures, and it's just like, I don't know why she's so hype about a visitor playing Ms. Pac-Man.
Maybe she was just doing aerobics by herself, and we just barged into her house while she's like listening to Miss Pac-Man doing aerobics or whatever. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, look, that checks out, but what doesn't check out is that there's a door that says toilet, and you can just barge into it, and when you open it, Pac-Man's just like on the can, just there, and so like, and then you close it, but why are you even allowed to open it in the first place? Does he know how to lock a door? It's like, what's up with that?
He's just sitting on the toilet, like, hey, I'm here, I'm Pac-Man taking a shit, I guess. I mean, I don't...
Yeah,
did you, like, why is he just... Maybe he just wants to get away from the noise? I mean, look, I would be pretty sick of that song after a while. Like...
Look, man, it melted my brain, okay? It totally melted it. It hasn't healed yet.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that Miss Pac-Man room is something else.
Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah, those polygonal Miss Pac-Man legs will haunt me for a while. That was kind of weird. So other cool stuff before we move on to the games themselves. So in Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Namco Museum, you could only quit out of the game when you're not playing the game. You had to have like game overed and not currently be in a game for you to leave. You had to complete the game. If you wanted to leave before that, you had to literally reset your console and like completely start over the boot sequence and everything.
Yeah. Or just ram into stuff.
Yeah, or just ram this stuff and die and then whatever. But so to leave the game, you had to press triangle and then you get to the dipshit. Then you get to the dip switch. Then you get to the dipshit screen. Fuck it, I'm keeping it. And fuck it, I don't care. Everyone can hear my fuck up. And then you from there you can pick exit, right? But at any time in Volume 3, I think after you pause, you can get to a menu now by pressing a triangle where you can get like a bunch of options, including exit.
Yeah, so there's in-game, basically it's in-game options. You can change like your screen mode, like if you want to like be one of those sickos tilting your television on its side. I haven't tried that for this just yet, but also like there's position changes, even letterbox art, so you can change like whether or not there's little images behind your score display like that, right? So that's actually like really, really neat. Just being able to quit out mid-game is really convenient for those Druaga runs.
Well, because sometimes it could take you a while to run into a stupid slime or something.
Oh my god, he walks so goddamn slow.
Oh, it's trash game. Trash. And I don't mind saying it. And I do have a confession to make, though. Okay, on Fine Time. I don't think I've ever told anybody this.
Okay.
So one time, this would be, fall-ish 96, September, October 96, when Volume 1 was out and I was playing it a lot. Made sure no one was home. And I put that TV on its side to play Pac-Man. I just wanted to try it one time because I knew that option was in there. And I'm like, I want to see it. So I did it. The side of the screen, one of the corners of the TV started turning really purple, and I got scared as fuck, and I just flipped it over real quick and it went away. I was like, oh my god, I thought I broke the TV or something, but it eventually went away, and I was like, okay, I'm never doing that again. That will never speak of this again until 2024 on a podcast.
From my understanding, like, if you turn it off and leave it off for a little bit and then turn it on, I think it's fine when it's on its side, because, like, I actually used to do that for some Dreamcast stuff, honestly. I would totally like tilt it on the side. That's how I learned Ikaruga, I think.
I tried Ikaruga on GameCube that way, like briefly, and I was smarter about it then because I knew it. But back then, in 96, I was 14 years old. I was like, oh, fuck, I'll flip this shit. I don't care.
Yeah,
it
turns colors. it does that. But actually, this warns you, too. It actually says, don't, make sure this TV doesn't fall over and stuff like that. So, I mean, at least they were thoughtful about it. But
yes, of course. But I just wanted to admit that to everybody on the air for the first time.
It's an easy mistake to make, honestly.
Outside of the some of the pictures of the assembly of the Galaxian cocktail cabinets, which I found kind of fascinating, since you don't usually get pictures from that. Like I said, Galaxian came out in 1979, so those are kind of old pictures. So
yeah, did you like how they were all sepia toned? I thought that was really funny.
Oh, it's great. Do you think they added that? No, it's just how they were, right?
That's the best they probably had.
But just outside of that, I didn't find a whole lot of articles interesting in this museum. Maybe if you really like Tower of Druaga, you'll get some use out of the art gallery there. But because there's tons of production material on it. But other than that, it didn't really hit for me in that regard.
You know what? We've talked so much shit about Druaga, but honestly, I actually really did enjoy the Druaga gallery images here because the production material is really cool. There's a lot of anime illustration. There was even this looked like a clay sculpture or something they used for some cover. That was actually really fascinating. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I actually liked looking through it, even though a lot of that material is very palette swapped ass enemies and potions and shit like that. But I thought that was kind of
there's
funny,
a lot of here is another sword that looks like the other three, I guess. Right? So it's just
I never quite got that far. I never got the palette swap sword, so I don't know.
The most I ever saw palette swapped in that game is I got to a black slime or two.
Yeah, me too. It's one, two, too.
That's about it. Okay, yeah. So you've whatever.
Dude, it's funny though. But no, I really did enjoy the gallery. As a bit of an aside, each volume refers to Bravo Man, but we know it nowadays as Bravo Man. So I thought it was really funny how they localized it this way early on before we got it, of course. Bravo. But
we played that on Virtual Console, right? On TurboGrafx 16.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Bravo with a B is how they wrote it. So when you're looking at some of the NG magazine entries, it'll say well, this was about Bravo, man. I thought that was kind of funny.
I don't think they really had much of a mind for it. Yeah, back then it was just whatever. Well, also this, I'm sure it's in there. I didn't actually look for it, but it has to be in there because it's a classic piece of Namco art. The Tower of Druaga comic book that's in English. The comic panel. Yeah, that's in there. And that's totally in English for the Japanese. I think it was actually a flyer. I think it was supposed to be that way.
Oh, was it a flyer? Yeah.
I think so. It's just a promotional flyer thing. And but yeah, I think there's some funny lines in there too. Kind of awkward, but yeah.
Well, they kind of tell you the game flow because I think Gil gets some item or something or other. It has little speech bubbles, and when he's yeah, I did so and so thing.
Right.
If I remember correctly, but yeah, and as another bit of a thing they added for Volume 3, so every single volume lets you see the entirety of Namco's arcade history up to that point, which is really, really cool, stemming all the way back to the 70s, and you can scroll down. In Volume 1 and 2, you just had to go at the one speed, you couldn't scroll any faster. And it takes a little while to get to the 90s, right? But in Volume 3, you can actually hold you can hold X and scroll down faster, and it's really convenient.
Everything in the first two volumes is slow and it's fine in general. I mean, it's a museum, so you're not really huffing and puffing along. It would feel weird, right? But for menu stuff like that, yeah, that could be a little faster, right? So I'm glad they added something like that. They realized. Yeah,
which basically implies that, maybe they got some feedback or maybe they tested stuff internally, but just the fact that they iterated upon this core concept and made it better. That's you don't see that every day.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I really, again, I know I keep saying this every volume, but just the obvious care that went into all this stuff is incredible. Before we move on, I want to mention something else about the museum is the library section, because it has these big open windows with a sky. It's like so spacious and blue. You can't even see any ground. It almost makes you feel like you're in midair or something. It's so blue out there. It's so cool. I wish there was like a real library like this. I would hang out there. It looks like a vaporwave dream, basically, with these big ass like windows. I don't know. It's a super cool section of the of the museum. I mean,
it really pops compared to the lounges from the first 2 volumes. Like, this actually feels like a space that, yeah, again, I would also like to, chill at too. So it's just, yeah, it's great.
Really, really cool stuff. I didn't want to forget about the library because I loved it. So let's talk about the games somewhat and how they fit together and what we think of this selection process, because I think this is a really great cross-section of games. Miss Pac-Man, obviously an all-timer. Galaxian is a personal favorite of mine, of that type of early, again, not really a shmup, but whatever. Dig Dug is obviously iconic too, not really a favorite of mine, but just a great lineup of classic hits. Maybe Pole Position 2 can feel a little redundant if you also have Volume 1, since it's like largely it looks the same. Yeah, you can choose like some different courses or whatever, whereas like the original Pole Position only has one course. But I don't know, quality showing here on Namco Museum Volume 3.
I think Pole Position 2 deserves to be here, though, because I feel like it's good to have that sort of lineage. It would have been a little remiss just to have included Pole Position 2 and not the original, I think. Like, I think they're both worth experiencing, and you really appreciate Pole Position 2's sort of multiple courses, and it's cool. I think it's great to have it here. And then I actually do love Dig Dug. It's a bit of a weird curiosity of mine, I guess, but hence the celebrating 4 decades of Dig Dug or whatever it was.
Did you really get on your goddamn stream and be like, "Oh yeah, Dig Dug is 42 years old. Let's play"? Is that you really do that?
I actually did do that.
Why?
Yo, man, love Dig Dug.
42 gives a fuck how old Dig Dug is. I guess everyone does, but me.
I don't think anyone does except me, actually. But okay.
Oh boy, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a Dig Dug person. It just doesn't work for me. I recognize it as like, this seems like a cool game, but just not. It just doesn't appeal. It never has. Even back in the day, I remember being a kid and be like annoyed. You know what really annoyed me as a kid? That the music stops when you stop moving.
It's so weird. It's one of the weirdest parts of the whole game. And honestly, I think it's iconic, but yeah, it's strange, right?
It is iconic. I totally recognize it as that. I just, no thanks. So, all right. Do you want to talk? No, let's talk shit about Tower of Druaga right now. Okay, please. Because like, I get it. Tower Druaga is, for those who don't know, who hasn't picked up on the way we've been talking about it already, it's a dungeon crawler game. It's a top-down dungeon crawling game that's sort of maze-like too. You're navigating this like really weird angular, literally like, square by square kind of maze with walls.
Oh, what's maze like? All right.
Oh, what's maze like? And it's very easy to see how Druaga influenced Hide Glide, which also influenced like Ys and Zelda and a bunch of other stuff. Like, so we get it. It was a big deal in Japan, and for a reason, and probably rightfully so. I don't think this is a good game, and especially not a good arcade game. Like, it's so plotting. It's so cryptic. I don't want to figure that shit out in the arcade. You have no chance to figure that shit out before you're dead. Like, outside of like the mystery dungeon game, the Nightmare of Druaga on PS2, I have never understood the appeal of the series ever.
People often like to say that you would have had to have been there to like have fully understood it, but at the same time, it's like, you kind of can imagine like people writing in notebooks at like a Japanese arcade or whatever to have understood what to do, but that still doesn't really seem like a very entertaining idea to me. This particular collection of Volume 3 doesn't really give you nearly enough information to figure it out, so you're still like kind of like going in blind. Like, it gives you a few details, but I gotta be really honest with you. The only time I've ever actually traversed like anything past like stage 2 is like the Switch compilation, because that literally tells you what to do, right? And otherwise I'm just like, I ain't doing this, man. Like, I don't want to have to go to like so-and-so spot to get so-and-so item, to like do a handstand, to like bend over backwards, and it's like, I just don't think it's very arcade-like. And then, like, sure, if you've got like that notebook on the cabinet, yeah, sure, man, that's a different experience, but I just don't. I'd rather play something else.
Yeah, I don't want to play that at the arcade. That's just not fun. I want to get, like, okay, even if it were a very straightforward game, and that's the problem, it's not. You can't just go to the staircase and get to the next level and get to the next level and win. You can't do that. You have to do their cryptic shit, or else you're never going to beat it. You have to. But even if it were straightforward, let's say it was just a maze thing and you just get to the next floor, it still wouldn't be that fun, because the combat sucks too much for it to be that fun.
You know what? Come to think of it, didn't we like play some, maybe it was like the 360 compilation or something, where like we kept getting wrecked, but then we realized we had to like hold the button to like brandish the sword. Gil brandishes it so slow.
Yeah, it's just like shink, taking it out of my ooh, okay, now it's pointing forward. Okay, putting it away. It's so slow. But then what is the benefit to having it sheath? Why not just hold the button down the whole time?
See, that's the thing, because we thought it was a slash button, but it's not a slash button. It's a hold down the sword button. I think that's what bamboozled us, right?
Well, yeah, it is what bamboozled us, but it's like, why? Man, whatever. I don't get it. Not the kind of thing I want to play at the arcade. Even if it were on a home computer or something, it's still outclassed by things that came out immediately after it. Like I said, Hide Light or whatever is just way better. So
it leads to my favorite line, though. It led to a hell of a gallery in Namco Museum.
Does every shitty game like Dragon Buster and Druaga have a good gallery? Is that like true? Well, there's not too many bad games on here, so
those might be the two.
I want to talk about something I actually like real quick, and because I fucking love Galaxian. It is my favorite game of that, again, thick shooter type. I liked it more than Galaga. I like it more than Gapless.
Whoa.
I do. And I think that's kind of an unusual opinion, right? You definitely like Galaga more, right?
I'm a Galaga person, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it does feel primitive compared to Galaga or Gapless being from 1979. You know, that's only expected. You know, it's only a year after Space Invaders. Space Invaders 78, Galaxian 79. So, you know, it's right in line with that stuff. But there's a certain simplicity to Galaxian that's super appealing to me. The sound design is completely out of this world. The fire sound, those like beefy explosion sounds, especially when it comes out of an arcade machine. The bug death sound, you know, like even the background quote unquote music, right, of like the droning bugs or whatever. It's just like it gives the right kind of tension and just like it makes you feel uneasy. Much like Pac-Man the year after this in 1980, Namco's sound design was so far ahead of the competition. It wasn't even funny. Anyone out there who's not that familiar with arcade games, listen to Galaxian and listen to Pac-Man and listen to literally anything else from the era. It's not even close. Not even remotely close.
It's really striking how like impactful the sound design is, and like I've never really compared it to Space Invaders sound, but like even a year apart, like it almost makes Space Invaders soundscape almost Spartan, right? And this is just so like it's very resounding, right? Even compared to Galaga, the shoot sound is like pretty distinct, right? So I mean, it really does have that going for it, and I really respect it on that level.
Me too. Just really great stuff.
It is.
What makes you like? What do you like more about Galaga? Is it like the double ship thing? Is that like the?
I think it's the variety and the double ship stuff, because I mean, like, there is certainly something to be said about the simplicity and the consistency of Galaxian, which I've come to appreciate more as I've gotten older. But I think like certain like quote unquote decision making, like whether to get double ships or whether I should go with a single ship, or you know, try to take out this thing that's splitting as it's coming towards me. Like, I like the sort of like the micro decisions, I guess you could say, right? So I mean, that's what makes me gravitate towards Galaga. But like that said, like it makes it so that Galaxian's not like outclassed. It's not Galaga does not render Galaxian obsolete.
And Gapless does not render Galaxian or Galaga obsolete.
Yeah.
All three of them have their own place. Yeah,
they really do, which makes sense because what happens to us in Gapless is that aliens just ram up our ass the whole time anyway.
Pretty much, man. Jesus Christ. One of these days I might get better at that game, which I've said for years and has never happened.
But you know something that's like really weird to me actually is they made the choice to include Galaxian on Volume 3 despite being an earlier game than Galaga. Do you suppose they were just going for like the recognition angle in Volume 1? It's like kind of an interesting decision, right? They could have done Galaxian and Galaga Volume 1, but I guess they got to split them up. But
I think they were trying to have a fixed shooter in each one. Volume 1 has Galaga, Volume 2 is Gapless, Volume 3 is Galaxian, right? So I think they were trying to spread those out consciously, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's just the order is very interesting. That's the curious part to me. It's like because you're essentially like going in some sort of split order, but like
well, if Volume 2 is like sicko mode, then like of course you're gonna have like Gapless, right? So
sure.
You know?
Sure.
Anything else real quick? I think we have a lot of notes here about Volume 3 just because it was, well, let's start here. It was the most successful of the Namco Museum PlayStation era because I mentioned earlier that Volume 1 sold 1.6 million copies here in North America alone. Volume 3 sold 2.2 million copies in North America, 4 million worldwide.
That's a lot of units.
Yeah, and both Volume 1 and Volume 3 were re-released as like greatest hits with like the green stripe, you know, that PlayStation 1 shit.
That's crazy to imagine a greatest hits version of a compilation.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. And that's the reason why I keep mentioning sales is that I want people to understand what a big deal these games were, these compilations. Like they weren't just some toss-off thing like it would be nowadays. Oh, it's a collection of old games. Oh, that's cool. Volume 1 and Volume 3 were big deals. Like those are still numbers that hold up today, let alone back then. Holy shit. That's not possible today. We kind of talked about that, but like it's not.
Yeah, you could have the most comprehensive thing and you couldn't even crack 1 million. Like you'd be lucky to do like even like a few 100,000, right? And I mean, my God, that's just
that would still be great.
Yeah. As a bit of a random aside, obviously you and I are not those physical like people, but like out of random curiosity, I tried to look on eBay about how much it would take to get Volume 1 and 1, 2 and so on. But 1 and 3 were actually like pretty accessible because of these greatest hits versions. But the other ones, well,
I'm not paying, like, I can go on Arcade Archives and buy all 5 games in Volume 5, Namco Museum Volume 5, and there are, like, actual, like, recreated, not object-level recreations, but real arcade games for way cheaper than I can that stupid disc on PS1. Sorry, I'm not doing it.
That's what you asked me, though, like, on what would you put the disc into?
I mean, no thanks.
Oh man, but
yeah, we're not physical game collectors, but still, like, I'm just not paying that. Sorry. I like how the receptionist, when you go up to her, when you register your name there for the records, it flashes a warning sign that says no smoking in the museum, but feel free to take pictures. Please do not touch the items with your hands. Bitch, this is a fake museum. You don't need to say that to me.
It's gotta lead into that marble erasure.
Oh man.
And it's sort of a expected point, but the grammatical syntax for a good chunk of these volumes is kind of busted. But for some reason, Volume 3 has some lines that were a little more egregious than others. It used the word treat for some reason. So it said for the how to play for Dig Dug, it's like drop 2 rocks for a vegetable treat. I'm like, what?
a carrot, as a treat.
It's like, I don't think I ever would have referred to a vegetable as a treat. Like, I don't think I've ever done that.
I don't think so. I mean,
in Ms. Pac-Man, you can eat 70 or 170 dots for a treat. It's like, why are they treats? Is it like fruit? A pretzel's a treat?
I guess a strawberry is more of a treat than like a carrot or something, right? Or a turnip, I guess. But like,
just a little treat.
It's just as a little treat, a little turnip to pass the time.
Like, okay, yeah. And another thing I really, really liked, because I love record keeping, is the way you access play data. Because in Volume 1 and 2, you basically had to go to the lounge and find this book, and like I didn't know how to do that for a hot minute. But in this game, so there is a record section. You can actually just press start and just choose records, so it makes it a lot easier just to like look at stuff. And starting with Volume 3, they actually give you letter grades for your play performance, which I'm not exactly sure about in terms of how that works, but it's kind of interesting.
I don't know. I didn't really look at much of the record stuff, honestly, because I'm not particularly interested in that kind of thing. So, and I know you are, so I kind of left it to you. But it's weird. I don't know how they grade. Okay, so like, do I need to get like, okay, let's say we beat Druaga. Does it give me like an S rank or something with like a happy Gil and T or something? I mean, like,
you have graduated from being an E-level player, Druaga, to an S player because you actually knew all the hints and doodads and obtuse parameters.
That would be a great stream sometime. We both try to like, yes, we actually, with save stating, no, we're going to cheat. You can cheat. We're going to actually try to beat Druaga, like front to back, using using all the cheats that we can. So let's get back to that magazine, Next Generation. So they said in their review of Namco Museum Volume 3, Next Generation said, and I quote, "With 2 volumes still to come, Namco is clearly stretching a series that could have been condensed into 3 discs without the superfluous B titles. But the number of true classics in Volume 3 outweigh the ones that never should have been unearthed."
What?
Okay.
What does that even mean?
Okay. I said earlier that I hate this magazine, and this is why. This is such a bird brain take. Like, okay, for one, not everyone has trash tastes like you do. Okay, so like not. I mean, maybe I'm sorry you don't like I don't know, Galaxian more than Galaga, but I do. So fuck off. Number 2, it's a museum. Nobody goes into a museum saying they should only show the kind of art that I personally like or that is the best or whatever. If the idea is that this is here to preserve history and put it in a museum format that the common user can enjoy, then every single game's inclusion is automatically valid. Like, yeah, I don't like Tower of Druaga either, but I would never say it's a B title or it shouldn't have been unearthed. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's asinine as hell. This isn't called Namco's Greatest Hits. It's Namco Museum. And a museum should show everything.
It should absolutely show everything. And there's so many problematic points, but one that stands out to me is that, well, they say it could have been condensed into 3 discs, but if you look at the built-in Namco Museum arcade history sections, you know it's impossible to condense Namco history into 3 discs. Like, that's not physically possible. They can't even condense it into 5. Like, I mean, like so it's like there's so much, right? And so like also if you're saying like this kind of crap, it's a surefire way to marginalize these volumes and their curation process, right? And also like, if you actually fucking looked at the cover art, you know that the boxes spell out Namco. Like, by this point, you like that should be very blatantly clear. So what the hell would you have done if it's 3 volumes then?
they want their normie tastes catered to. They just want Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, almost like remember the Dreamcast and N64 versions of Namco Museum that just kind of compiled like from Volume 1 and Volume 3, got rid of like Toy Pop and Bosconian and like all the wild shit and just had like the hits. That's what they wanted, really. And I'm sorry, that's not what this is. This is Namco Museum.
I gotta be totally honest, I forgot about the N64 cart because I blocked it out of my head.
Yeah. It was the same version on Dreamcast, so yeah.
It's just like, yeah, what are you gonna do? Sacrifice the box art motif and write, or maybe write like nah or something, like cut the A in half? Fucking think about it, man.
Yeah, like what do they think's going on here?
They clearly don't care about the art or the craft of it, right? But you better not put on like Cosmo getting the video or like Libble Rabble or they're gonna shit themselves.
Yeah, they're gonna shit their pants. Oh no! Oh god! Phozon, what is it so scary? Oh god, I've never heard of it before. Jesus Christ! It's so obnoxious. I've never liked that magazine and their takes, but that one just oof, baby. That just makes me angry, honestly. I know I shouldn't get that mad at like old reviews of a magazine that doesn't even exist anymore, but seriously, like that sucks that people thought that at least one person thought of it that way. That blows.
It's irresponsible is what it is, right? Because if you're actually writing something that's going to be spread to the quote unquote masses or whatever, like you just don't do that shit. You just don't.
It's irresponsible, and as you explained, it purposefully misses the point of Namco Museum on purpose. So,
and that's just not good.
No. We got anything else here before we move on? I think that's about it. That's all I think it covers the bases. Okay. Oh, wait, one more thing. This feels like a good time to mention that in all 5 volumes, at any point you want in the museum, you can just press the select button to bring up the list of games. And you just choose a game to play from there and it'll load. So you don't have to actually walk through the museum if you don't want to, which I would never do. Like, I've never done that. I mean, I'm not saying I shouldn't say I never did it. Like on Volume 1, sometimes I didn't have much time. Okay, I need to just go to games from the title screen and just pick Pac-Man and get in a couple games and leave. I understand that. But for the most part, I would say 9 times out of 10, no, I'm walking through that museum.
Yeah, it honestly doesn't take that long, so I'm in the same boat. Like, I primarily walk through stuff. If I really want to, like, cross-reference something or, like, check some settings, sure, I'll quick load, but it's like, I don't think it's particularly, like, time-intensive to just walk. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine, everybody.
You can do it.
You sure can. Okay, ready to move on to Namco Museum Volume 4? Flap them wings,
I'm ready to flap those wings. Yeah, I'm flopping as we speak.
Almost said fairy boy. I forgot wispy guy.
Are you gonna get this by the
No, I'm gonna keep forgetting.
Wispy Pal, retroactively the evolution of the Pal and Pac-Pal,
which is not in any of these volumes. Let's go to Namco Museum Volume 4.
I'm very ready.
I'm going to leave that in. He's very ready, everybody. We're at Namco Museum Volume 4.
Well, you better be very ready with a lineup like this.
For sure. Why don't you tell everybody about the lineup this time? Let's go to the front desk. Let's hit that bell.
We're kicking things off with Pac-Land in 1984, followed by the return of Ishtar and the Genji and Heike clans in 1986. Ordyne in 1988, as well as Assault, also in 1988.
That's a lineup, man. That's a motley crew. I think if we could describe any of these as that.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah. And one of these names is pretty curious because the Genji and Heike clans is actually the makeshift English name for Genpei Tomaden, which means it's actually its first release in North America with this volume of Namco Museum, right?
Super cool.
And that's really interesting because, again, Namco is doing the deep cuts. They're giving us the things that we wouldn't have experienced otherwise, and it really makes these collections pretty interesting.
Yep.
The Return of Ishtar is a sequel to the Tower of Druaga, our favorite game. And just like that one, The Return of Ishtar also had never originally made it to North American arcades. So Volume 4 is the first time that it was released here. So the first time that we got to play it. Yeah, I think, again, another interesting deep cut. And North America only received Ordyne in the TurboGrafx 16 port, so the arcade version's first appearance is via Volume 4 here. So, I mean, that's just actually really cool, honestly.
That's super cool. The fact that basically 3 of these 5 games have never came out here, that's excellent. It's, think about how many companies wouldn't give us something like this. They would just skip it because, like I said before, because they don't care. It's never came out here. They won't recognize it. They won't buy it. They don't, whatever. And I don't know how Volume 4 sold. It probably wasn't much, but Namco gave a shit, and not every company does.
We have to respect the effort. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, Genba Tobata is literally not an English title, man. So it's
Genji and Heike clans is just something they just made up for us. So it's which is fine, but it's just whatever. Okay, time to talk about the intro to Namco Museum Volume 4. And I think this is probably the strangest one. So here we go.
Oh boy.
We open on a zoom in of a map, and that fades to the location of a big forest with a tall tower in it. And Indiana Jones, Pac-Man wearing his hat from Pac-Land, is wandering the halls of this tall temple. And he locates the treasure, which is apparently a disc of Namco Museum Volume 4? That's the treasure? But beware, a ghost is silently tailing Pac-Man, and she finally reveals herself and uses her magic wand to zap the CD glass case.
What?
But this triggers a trap, and the statues come to life in the room, which are the samurais from the Genji and Heike clans. Oh no! So Pac-Man grabs the CD, puts it under his hat, and runs back the way he came. The samurais are chasing him close behind. He runs past the statues of Gil and Key from the Return of Ishtar, and they come to life, but they don't actually do anything, and they're never seen again in the sequence. So then Pac-Man keeps running, and there's a launch pad from Assault. Pac-Man uses a launch pad to hop out of the dungeon's escape hatch, because I guess there's an escape hatch.
I guess.
And he gets 7,650 points for some reason, just like in Pac-Land when he lands outside. I don't know why that happened. But then the tank from Assault hops out right after him. The tank hatch opens, and it's the purple ghost from before who's trying to steal the CD. Now Pac-Man's backed up against the cliff. What will he do? Who will save him now? Pac-Man takes a look behind him and jumps off the cliff, only to be caught in midair by the ships from Ordyne. The Ordyne ships fly Pac-Man right to the gates of the museum. The gate has a big Namco logo on it, but the C is missing. Don't worry, that CD that Pac-Man got has the C on that disc. So he puts the CD into the gate, it spells Namco, the gate's open, and he goes right to the Namco Museum.
That's a trip. Literally, I have. I have a handful of dumb points. So if you're Next Generation Magazine, how are you going to open this up if you only have 3 volumes?
Yeah, you're not going to open up. You don't have volume 4, hose. What are you going to do?
You're stuck. And speaking of self-referential, I think the reason why 7650 is a recurring thing. From my understanding, 765 can be read as Namco via a Japanese Gorowase language wordplay.
Let me think about it. No, yeah, you You can, because you'd use that for 6 if you're saying. Yeah, that is true. But it's a very, very strange pun, but it is true. And 7650 appears in a lot of games in Namco history, not just Pac-Land, but
yeah.
That is true now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I hate that I know enough about Japanese to actually know that now, but that is a thing. Yeah.
Yo, thanks for the confirmation. That's great.
No, yeah. Running through my Japanese is pretty mediocre still, but at least I know that much.
That's incredible.
Yeah, man, this intro was insane. So, I guess there's a bit of bad news. Well, I guess it's not bad news, depending on how you feel about it. There's no more animated character running back and forth on the screen now for loading. It's just images related to what you're about to play or the museum item you're about to view. So if you're about to go into the Xevious room, it just displays a Xevious. Well, Xevious isn't in Volume 4, but you know what I mean. It just displays something related to the game.
I think it's a big negative that it's not a hopping map equivalent. That's bullshit. I'm just kidding. It's fine. No, it's fine. No, like the images they choose are actually very relevant and striking in their own right. Like when you pick Ordyne, there's a character like popping out that looks super over the top. Pac-Land actually just straight up shows you like the entire like I guess theme park-esque sort of place. I mean, so it's the art they chose is cool. It's just the bouncing sprites is fun, but can't have everything.
I guess it's cool. I do like. I mean, more and more games are moving towards that like loading screen motif, having unique stuff. That's one of the best things I liked about the port of Street Fighter Alpha 3 to PlayStation. It had like character art of the character you're about to fight. It had some crazy shit. I remember like the Zangief one was like wild and like there's some weird, very strange art in the loading screen. So I guess that's the way we were moving at that time.
Wait, is it telling that I thought that example independently from you? I swear to God, like I was thinking Alpha 3, but I wasn't sure what
that's the best example, though. That's the best example. So
because I remember like, some of the characters like had like cursive writing. So like Sakura and Rose had like these really like ornate looking handwritten letters. It looked pretty cool. I remember that
because they're girls.
Yeah.
They have to have pretty writing.
I mean, that's probably what happened.
That's probably what they thought. That's probably what they thought.
That was great.
This museum is the same layout as Volume 3, so they reused it from Volume 3, which is fine. Volume 1 and 2 have the same layout, and Volume 3 and 4 have the same layout. But Volume 4 only has 5 games instead of 6, as we just read. So there's an extra room labeled the X room, I think it says, from what I can read from that texture.
the low resolution texture, yes.
Yeah. But then found out what the hell that room is for, because if you go in there, it's just blank. It's just a little podium, and it's like a black background. It's like, okay, I guess there's nothing in here. But there is.
It looks super sparse. It looks like a placeholder, right? So, I mean, yeah. I was like, what the hell is this? So, as any sane person does, they go on the game FAQs.
I was gonna ask how you even figured out that this was here. I guess what did you do? Empty room, Volume 4. I mean, what did you...
Yeah, secret room, something or other. Yeah, I think that's what happened. But,
okay.
But the secret was not what I had expected, because you'll never discover this via ordinary play. I'm convinced it was some magazine like code or some. I don't even know how the hell this was distributed.
Some Famitsu bullshit that they said, hey, next issue we'll tell you how to.
It's a truly unlock Volume 4 of Namco Museum, yes. So as it turns out, if you put in a code, you hold I think it's a L1 R1 triangle, and then you press up, which sounds really crazy to say, but if you do that, the room flashes, and then you talk to this NPC lady, right? And you talk to her, she does a little animation, she becomes super deformed, and then she points to the direction of like this unused cabinet. So when you interact with it, the words Assault Plus flash on the monitor. I'm like, what? And then the whole room just changes into the stadium like layout, right? And I'm like, so this formerly completely like dark room actually becomes like one of the themed game rooms, even different from the regular Assault's room, right? And so they clearly spent time like modeling and texturing this. It even has like extras telling you what the differences are from the other regular like Assault. But if you leave the room, everything just resets to normal as if you had never put in this button code or anything like that. And so like, God, this is so involved. And it's like, I don't even know like why they went to so many lengths to hide this. It's like really interesting.
I think maybe that like since this volume was only going to have 5 and they were going to do the same layout, whereas volume 5 has a completely different layout, I figure maybe they had to do something with that room. Let's say this were like, I don't know, this were to have Rally X in it. Maybe they could have hid new Rally X in this room because they just wanted to have like, they probably didn't feel like making 2 discrete Assault rooms at the same time. So you just had to put in a code to get the other one. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose so, but it does sort of make you wonder whether would have been more effective, like marketing wise, to just have included Assault Plus as like a separate entity. But it's just like, because like you see, like you'd think more games would be a better sell, but
I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, Volume 1 marketed Rally X and New Rally X for sure, but like when you look, I mean, come on, Pac-Land, Return of Ishtar, Genji and Heike clans, Ordyne, and Assault. I don't think Assault Plus is like pushing, the normies are gonna like really get it now. I don't this is kind of a diehard disc, you know, so I don't think Assault Plus is really moving the needle. So
no, man, 5 more people would have fucking bought this if they saw the cover art.
Of course. Yes, exactly. I thought one interesting thing about, that's cool enough, right? That's super cool, Assault Plus.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that a bit more later, but when we get to the games part. But another thing I thought was cool is that you can exit the museum this time. You can just go back the way you came. And when you do that, that triggers like a staff roll. Before to get a staff roll, you had to go to the lounge and look at a certain thing on the wall or whatever, depending on the volume. This, you just leave and then you get credits.
Yeah, that's actually kind of appropriate too. Like, it's like, oh, by the way, like these are the guys that brought you the museum experience. And actually it makes sense.
It does. It's a nice little touch. What was that painting in the lobby? Because there was a painting in Volume 3 as well too. I don't know if that was like the same. It's a woman. I don't know what game they're from. I thought it was a lady from Phelios, but it's not.
You know, Phelios would have been like a fitting inclusion here, but from what I'm seeing, the Volume 4 painting on the wall seems to be like the Great Fairy from Pac-Land. There's probably like a joke here where, of course, I would know that because fairies, but
Fairy boy or whatever I said earlier.
Volume 3 though, it seemed to have been key from Tower of Druaga. At least that's what I presume, because I'm presuming that they want to tie it into the respective volume. And even though I guess on a sheer technicality, key was also in this one as well, in Volume 4 as well, via Return of Ishtar. Like, I think they just want to like switch it up a bit between discs. I don't know. That's kind of what I gathered, but
yeah. Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Fairy intuition.
I thought you were going to say Fairy Intel, which I guess would have been the
either
same
way.
The Fairy Intelligence Network.
One of my favorite jokes is that when you change rooms in this disc, Pac-Man now holds up a Best of Namco sign instead of Please Wait. And there's a bit of irony in this because I'm not entirely sure that this is true.
It's definitely not the Best of Namco. I mean, that's for sure. This ain't it's not a sicko disc like Volume 2, but it is definitely like it's the diehard disc. Like I said earlier, this is for fans only. It really is, man. It is cool that, well, 2 things. One, you take a literal elevator to get to the library and the museum. Mm-hmm. So that's nice. And we'll talk about both of those a little bit later, but I want to talk about a couple of game rooms real quick. And one of them is the Pac-Land room. And I know what I said about Super Pac-Man, but honestly, this might even be better. I changed my mind from talking about Volume 2. I really think like this might be the best one. Why all the Pac-Man rooms in this game are crazy. What is up with that, actually? That's kind of...
They gotta sell Pac-Man. They gotta sell Namco's most iconic character. character, I guess, right? I mean,
I guess so, yeah. Okay, let me tell you what happens in this Pac-Land room, because it is cool as fuck. So, first of all, the hallway leading up to the room is like the wobbly bridge from Pac-Land with that like trademark flower field in the background, you know, when you get to the end. So that's cool. I may not like Pac-Land very much, but I like the motif of it. Even though, you know what it is? I hate the Pac-Man sprite. I think he looks so stupid.
You don't like the hat?
I don't mind the hat. I don't like him. I had the stupid boots. I don't know. There's just something about it.
Look, man, he's taking after Miss Pac-Man's long legs from the previous volumes.
He evolved to have legs after he saw Miss Pac-Man, his wife.
Pac-Man's evolved.
Yes, he evolved. So anyway, so you go, you get through the wobbly bridge, you go through the door, and it's a beach with palm trees and like lapping waves. Like those are animated waves, not like polygonal, but like it's like a flat texture, but it's kind of a convincing effect. It's cool. Yeah. And there's like a pack boat in the water. You have the break time sign from Pac-Land, and then right next to the break time sign, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and the fairy pal see, I got it right, from Pac-Land are chilling on this beach towel, like listening to the radio, all while this like island reggae version of the Pac-Land theme plays. It's so cool. It's very cool shit. As cool as that is, here's the really cool part, and I don't know if you did this. This room has like an interactable like story, if you will. So like Sue the ghost is like hanging out behind like one of the rocks, and you could like click on it. You know what I mean? Like Pac-Man does the point, like when you attention, right? You can interact with something. He does that when you look at Sue. So you do that, and Sue runs away, and then she goes to a different part of the rock, and you do that a few times. And she finally comes out and she starts chasing the fairy around. And then Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man stand up off the tower like, oh no, what do we do? You get a power pellet from one of the trees that looks like a coconut. You interact with the tree, the power pellet falls down. You give it to Pac-Man, and he chases Sue around, munches Sue off screen, you know, whoop, whoop, whoop. And then like you can interact with the fairy again, and she thanks you by letting you jump. Like in Pac-Land.
Oh my god.
You can jump like in the museum. You can now the jumping doesn't work in the museum. You can't jump around all the museum. It just works on the beach.
Yeah.
But like she lets you jump, and it's just like it's kind of a useless thing, but it's so cool. I love that they made like a whole like interactive like point and click thing out of a game room.
Dude, that's great. Yeah, because I saw Sue, but I didn't do the whole steps afterwards, so I actually didn't really experience the jumping. But yeah, like just even having like this expansive space with stuff to do inside of it's really a big contrast with like volume 1 and 2's relatively like, you know, square rooms or whatever, right? So I mean this is a straight up environment at this point, and they really craft a motif, right? And I think that's like really, really impressive, because again, like Pac-Land's not a game that either of us really revisit particularly often, but like we can still respect this because of the craft involved.
Real quick, I love the Ordyne room. It's super cool too. If anyone is familiar with like Fantasy Zone or Forgotten Worlds or any shmup where you like go into a shop and buy like power-ups and then you continue the game, Ordyne has that system too. So the Ordyne room is in one of those shops. There's like a shopkeeper who bows like when you approach her, and then there's like a menu behind her listing all the power-ups from the game and like prices and everything. That's like a super cool idea. I mean, they're just pulling something directly from the game, like exactly, but it's so cool even nowadays to see that in 3D.
It takes effort to recreate an environment like that in 3D though, because you have to plan for the space and all of that. So I mean, like the labor involved is super impressive to me, honestly. Yeah, I really enjoyed that space. As a bit of an aside, so I spoke about Assault before, but the regular Assault room is really interesting as well. It actually has like this striky red sky. It's got douche rock for some reason. I don't know why it's got like douche rock.
Oh, the douche rock. It's super douchey.
Yeah, I suppose it makes sense with the tank motif, but it's just like pretty overwhelmingly douchey compared to other rooms in the rest of the volumes. But I liked they had a volume version 1 and version 2 as separate cocktail cabinets, so that's like an interesting way of letting you select those. From my understanding, version 2 does like fix some score glitch or like whatever, right? But it's like interesting that they let you like pick. That's cool, man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of music, I think Volume 4 has a lot of interesting music touches in the museum itself.
Yeah, one of the biggest musical touches to me is that when you look at like the Namco arcade history, or if you zoom into a piece of art, it plays an arrangement of the Libble Rabble theme. This isn't even a game that's on here, but like
no, it's not on any volume of Namco Museum Libble Rabble. So
yeah, it jumped out to us. I mean, we have come off of playing Libble Rabble via Arcade Archives, but so like we instantly recognize this like lickety split, and the fact that they like lean into this song, it's like interestingly distinct, right? And speaking of distinct, there's also Libble Rabble critters just chilling in the library. So like what are they doing here?
It's weird. Yeah. Well, I recognized them like a few days ago because you were like, because I don't know, you were talking about something at the library, and I was like, wait a second, are these like Libble Rabble guys? Like, what are they? You know, it's like, oh yeah, they are. I don't even think you recognized them at first.
I didn't. No, I didn't even know. I thought just some randos, but like, yeah, the fact that they did this, I mean, it almost makes you wonder if they have entertained the idea of including Libble Rabble as like in Volume 4, or it's just like why, right? It's like so curious.
Well, it's a bit of difficulty, right? Because it's a twin stick game, right? Libble Rabble, but so was Assault. Assault, the arcade cabinet had like 2 like tank, sticks, with like fire
2
buttons
sticks,
on top and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can play that on a pad just fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. I guess you could do Libble Rabble too if you wanted, but
2 pairs of a D-pad and some face buttons. No, man, you can't corral those critters. I don't know. It's weird, right? It's so weird.
Wasn't there an accessory for like? Whoa, wait! Libble Rabble did come to Super Nintendo. There is a Super Nintendo version. Yeah, there's like some special ass version, so it has to work somehow.
They counted for the corralling, I guess. Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't really seen that version, so I don't know.
Unless it came with a special controller, which I mean, it very well I don't know. Maybe. Okay, I gotta say something. We have to get to it now. There's something in the theater that blew our minds. So here's what happened. If you go to the theater and you dig around the right place, chiefly if you go to the Namco Museum section of the theater instead of like one of the games, you can watch the intro and you can see the Namco logo per usual. But you can also watch a third video, and it appears to be a promotional video for the Genji and Heike clans. Like a commercial almost. And this promo has it all. I don't even really know how to encompass it. Like, think like a TV commercial you might see in the 80s for a video game, but like way extended. Like it has this absolutely wild mix of like live action, like samurai scenes, has like crazy special effects, including like miniatures and like other like tokusatsu classic, special effects, right?
Yeah.
And like there's animation overlays, and anime fade in and fade outs, right? The music is like full production versions of the chiptunes from the games. as well. None of these scenes appear to make any consecutive sense because 1 second they're scenes of enemies attacking. The next second the samurai is like running along the beach shoreline.
Yeah, the beach, that's right. The crashing waves and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like fine for like a 30-second video or commercial rather, but this is like 2 minutes long.
and you know the funny thing is we were watching this, I'm like, it's a commercial, right? It's a commercial, but as it kept like going on, I'm like, no, I don't think it's a commercial.
Yeah, this is like way too long to be a commercial. Way too long. Even if you're doing like the big budget, like 90-second commercial that you can put on network TV sometime. No, or like Super Bowl. Nah, this is like way more than that. And we were fascinated by this, right? So yeah. I decided to once again put my mediocre Japanese skills and reading to work. And I did some sleuthing in, I wouldn't even call it my second language yet because I can't speak it. And I found out that this version of the Genji and Heike clans promo video in Namco Museum is the short version. It's not 2 minutes long. It's 9 minutes long. It's insane. I will link it in the description of this episode if you guys want to watch it, and you should. Like, it's insane. Also, I found out that this video was shown at arcades in Japan, like on the Game Center monitors and stuff, which makes sense, right? This wouldn't be on TV.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
For an American equivalent, think about how when you go to GameStop and you see like some video on the TV there about like upcoming games and shit and like some trade-in deal they have going on or whatever, like some looping video or whatever. They would show that kind of stuff at game centers too. So that video showed at the arcade.
That's a cool use of it. It just seems like this is a lot of work for that, man. I guess they gotta sell it, but at the same time, it's like you got the animation stuff on top. It's like, what in the world, dude? It's like so over the top.
This was not cheap. It couldn't have been. Doesn't look like your typical crappy, like low budget commercial. You know,
I mean, if you got actors and you got sets, I mean, I think he passes like a Tory gate at some point. I'm like, is this?
Yes.
I was thinking, is this a real Tory gate or is this something they made? I don't know.
I probably is a real one. It probably is.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
it's just,
that guy was.
God.
Oh, that so weird, man. Let's talk about the games, because, you know, I'm going to be honest. This is the volume that feels the toughest to justify for, you know, these were like full price $50 games back in the day, right?
Right.
So Assault is like the true classic here, in my opinion. Ordyne is like a nice little cute 'em up. You know, it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know there are fans of Pac-Land, and I am not one of them. So I sorry. I do think it's cool that like 3 of the 5 games here were the first time they ever came to North America, but that doesn't mean I'm going to appreciate Return of fucking Ishtar's asshole gameplay just because it never came here. Like, I'm sorry, fuck that game, right? So like,
dude, it's so fucking weird. I haven't really played it too much. Well, I mean, like, I revisited, of course, because we had to do research for the pod, but like, Key dies in like one hit, and like Gil still like kind of sort of ram stuff with his sword. It's like, and if you play by yourself, you gotta control both of them at the same time. It's like annoying to do, man. I think you're supposed to do a 2-player, I guess, but it's like, man, what a pain in the ass.
Well, one, if you're supposed, quote unquote, supposed to do 2-player, then fuck off. I'm sorry. Number 2. You missed the important part. Not only does Key die in one hit, it's game over.
Yeah, it's game over. That's right.
The game is instantly over if she gets hit once. Fuck you. Like, I'm sorry. That's like robbing my goddamn quarter. I mean, I know it didn't come out here, but like still.
To their credit, at least they do have like passwords, I guess. But again, like, would you really want to do that on the arcade? It's like, come on, man.
I'll do that for like my, you know, look, some games here had like a Gauntlet Legends had like some password thing or like, you know, some stuff like that. Shit, how many Wangan Midnight maximum 2 cards that we ever have in our life, right? Like
Of course,
we've
yeah,
done stuff like that. So I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not doing it for Return of Ishtar, man.
Yeah, it's not the most pleasant experience on the disappointed. I think it should be here, but yeah, at the same time. Oof.
There's one game though I didn't really mention. I don't really get into it, but you like the Genji and Heike clans a lot more than I do.
You know, I like it a lot. It's so bizarre though. I mean, I still don't fully like understand it, but Volume 4 does like help you understand some of the like the game flow where like you're picking up items. Some of the Torii gates you pass through like lead to like different difficulties, I guess. But really it's super bizarre partially because the game has 3 perspectives, right? So I mean there's the side-scrolling part, there's the zoomed in like I guess action-y like swordplay part. Then there's like an overhead like section. Like I don't even know of another arcade game that has like 3 different perspectives. Like that is like weird.
It's
like
definitely admirable for sure. You know, it's
ambitious,
so
yeah.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I still don't really fully understand it, but I mean I like experiencing it. Also like the controllable characters got weird jumping inertia. You like I don't even know, man.
No weirder than Pac-Land, I guess. I mean, like, Jesus Christ.
Right? Yeah, pretty much.
None of these games are easy to control. And I feel like all of them, even Assault, which I like, which I'll get to in a sec, but like Jesus Christ. Yeah, Genji and Heike clans I don't want to say it feels slippery, but it's something about it. But I think the sword play when you're in big mode or whatever it's called, like that's like weird, really weird. It's like very weird puppetry.
It's puppetry. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. But like, I really appreciate how this version of this inclusion has translated text. I think that really adds a lot of character. You can kind of understand like the crazy cryptic sort of backstory of the thing. And I think this ultimately is like a very interesting game from a sort of like presentation standpoint, and that text really helps, I think.
For sure.
Personally.
Yeah, I do appreciate that everything here is in English to the best of their ability. Like I said, this is on Arcade Archives and it's not translated. So Namco did all this work just for these particular versions on PS1.
It's great seeing it. I do have to make one quickie comparison that's off the wall. I kind of sort of think that Pac-Land might actually just be like Wonder Boy for assholes.
Like Wonder Boy / Adventure Island for pricks, basically.
Yeah.
I understand why you say that because you have to get the items that appear, but like I can't stand that game, man. It's so cursed. I hate the way those like houses look. I just don't like anything about it.
I gotta know something really quick. Like the main theme, do you like the little chirp? Did that ever get to you or what?
Not really. I don't mind the main theme. It's kind of chirpy. Yeah. But it's not bad. I'm so biased because I don't like the game at all. So I just don't like, I can't picture it. Maybe if it were like I don't know, if that played over like Pack and Pal, I might like it more, which is not like a super great game, but like, I would still like it more than this.
Yeah, I think the game's biggest contribution is probably just rando fairies, I guess. The Defco history.
I guess, pal. Man. Wispy Pal. I'll forget it by the time we go to the next Namco Museum. I fucking love Assault, man. I do. When I was a kid, I was drawn to that arcade cabinet like a magnet. I loved that game. The place I used to play it at had it stuck in the corner, like all the way in the back, where they used to stick all the games for sickos, basically, like a really hard shmup or like some other tough shit. Assault was back there. That was like next to an R-Type or some other sicko shit. And like, and because the game was not easy, I was drawn to it. It was like it's like an overhead tank game with like we said, a twin joystick setup with fire buttons, and you have to press them both right to roll right or left, or move them independently up and down of each other to turn and shit. Like a real tank. Yeah. And I wasn't very good at controlling it, but man, I love the way it sounded. Like I said, Shinji Hosoe incredible work on the soundtrack. I love the way it controlled. I love the explosions. I loved one of the sound effects that never left my head is when you're going the wrong way, an arrow will pop up, but it's accompanied by this like this like very strange like siren sound.
Yeah, siren's a way of putting it. Yeah,
it's so bizarre. But that's the thing I remembered more about the game, the rotation effects and the so yeah, but playing it again here with Volume 4, and yeah, it's out on Arcade Archives now, but like, Jesus, I love this game. I love Assault. That is a true classic here for me.
It's great. I think it handles really, it's a bit of a learning curve, right? But like, once you get the hang of it, the controls make sense, right? So, I mean, it handles well once you like know what to do. But yeah, I really respect the hell out of it. The sound in question is one way of making sure that you actually hear the sound, I guess, right? That's how you know you're going off course. And yeah, I never really got to do the arcade cabinet as a kid, but like recently at some of the like the arcade collector shows like California Extreme or whatever, I have managed to actually play the twin stick cabinet. Okay, and like, dude, it's cool. Yeah, it's great. Like actually like holding the twin sticks. It's a really fun experience. Obviously, like the Arcade Archives version, the dual analog, it's a suitable replacement. But like, yeah, it's an interesting thing to control.
Okay, I want to throw something at you, and I want to see if you agree or not, because it's something people always assert that I don't think is true. So I want to ask you. These game rooms, we're talking about them not just in a historical context, but like they're still cool. They're still cool today. And these PS1 graphics, they're so ancient as shit, but they're still so charming somehow in this game. There was a prevailing sentiment back in the day that like early 3D graphics would age like milk, while like the 2D stuff that we didn't want anymore at that time, by the way, would come off better later on. And I think Namco Museum proves that that's not true. 3D graphics from this time period can be cool as hell, and we're seeing it right now while playing through these.
Yeah, I definitely think they're charming. You know, and the thing that I always say each and every single time is that solid art direction always ages well, regardless of the era, right? So there's also like something charming to the way like these models and environments are built. So like, people will often say like, oh, like something will like look ghetto or whatever, right? But what they actually mean is that the fidelity of like some of the textures and stuff is like a little low compared to like current times. But I mean, but if you're actually speaking of like the art direction, like just in terms of like how like things are put together and like how vibrant things are and like what the sort of like, I guess you could say the feeling is like, right? That stuff holds up over time. It's like, it really, really, truly does.
I totally believe so as well. And art direction, like you said, art direction is king. And, you know, a shitty looking 2D game is always shitty. It doesn't matter. Like, I get it. Like, it was new, right? It was harder to make things look good in 3D than 2D because we didn't really have any experience yet. It was so new. It was so experimental. I understand that. But I'm sorry, I don't think Jumping Flash looks worse than Street Fighter Alpha. I feel like they each have like a strong art design that holds up today and they're still cool to look at. So maybe that's just my perspective.
Jumping Flash is a great example of that, particularly just because like the relatively lower poly nature of it really leans into like the direction, like these really hyper cartoony and stylized like robots and whatever, right? Like that's cool, man. And like the floating islands and stuff that you jump onto and the like, that particularly holds up well. Whereas arguably perhaps like maybe like a Tomb Raider, well, I mean Tomb Raider still like looks okay-ish, but obviously it's like kind of a little more drab comparison, but
sure, but you know, it's still, you know, I think that stuff does hold. I still think Tomb Raider looks a certain kind of way that's not like, oh no, this is like kind of a mess, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not messy. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was pretty interesting, is that they made some tweaks to the overall like sort of game flow as you're traversing the museums. They gave you the ability to strafe for some reason. It's like, I don't know if I necessarily thought that was necessary, but I mean, it's welcome. I mean, I didn't play Volume 3 and go, man, I wish I could strafe.
You move so slow and there's no action. I don't really care if there's a strafe or not. I mean, but I guess whatever. I guess why not add it, right? It doesn't hurt. But it's
I don't know if they thought like, oh yeah, Pac-Man controls like a tank, give him a strafe button. I don't know what happened there, but they actually had so much attention to detail so that if you actually like hold a direction and strafe at the same time, the little sprite in the lower right corner will show Pac-Man kind of like doing a little spin, right? He actually like gets up on one foot and like spins around, and like, well, that's kind of cool, I guess.
It's a nice little detail. Did you ever play Doom with the hold shift to strafe? Did you ever play that way?
You did, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember those days. It's like, oh man, what do I do? But I eventually got used to it. But man, that's a tough way to go nowadays. I think those skills have atrophied. My shift strafe days.
Yeah, it wasn't really done too often after that point too. So I mean, that's
the only game I ever did it in personally.
Yeah. Other nitpicky details. They actually made an English logo for the Genji and Heike clans, which is kind of just some basic text, which is kind of funny.
It's weird. It's like someone just pasted over the Japanese and just like someone just put into a font on like, you know, Microsoft Word or something, the Genji and Heike clans. It's very strange. Okay, Microsoft Word is a little ghetto. I mean, it does look better than that, but like it's clearly out of place. It's, you know, not the logo of a game.
Yeah, it wasn't like a logo, but I mean, they had to do what they had to because they couldn't just the original Tomoden like art or whatever. They had to like localize it, right? So, another nitpicky thing is that the custodians. There's a custodian Volume 3 and there's a custodian Volume 4. If you talk to them, you can see the Namco history. But the custodians are crazy looking. They look like abstract 90s like things. Like, what's happening, man?
They're 90. This is like so 90s. It's like at first I thought they were like puzzle piece head people, but they're not puzzle pieces. They're angular. You know what it's like? What are those little yellow fucks from WarioWare that have like the angular heads?
Oh, the Franks. Yeah,
Franks. It looks like a Frank head, but like a TV monitor. At first I also thought they were like, you know how like they did in the 90s? Oh, they have a TV for a head or something. No, that was kind of a 90s ass idea, but it's not either. Yeah, it's like very abstract art people. Then you talk to them and you get like the Namco history or something. It's bizarre. It's something you would see like on Liquid Television, like remember that on MTV? Television. Like, yeah, it's like that or something. Television. It's so weird.
The one prominent question is that they've technically cut down the number of games compared to like the earlier volumes. So it's like if Volume 1 is 7 and then Volume 2 and 3 have 6, this one's got like 5. Is that like kind of weird? It's just like, I don't know, feels,
you know, I didn't think much of it at the time and not really now, but yeah, just for like marketing purposes alone, it's weird that they didn't even out the volumes. Because like we mentioned before, there's a Japan only extra volume called Namco Museum Encore. And I think it's crazy that they left like stone cold classics on there. Sky Kid, Dragon Saber, Rolling Thunder. All of that's on Namco Museum Encore. This volume could have used Rolling Thunder. I would have loved that. You know,
that'd be great.
That would have upped the value of this like significantly. Like maybe Return of Ishtar and Pac-Land and stuff was like the shit over there, and they thought this collection was good enough, even though that doesn't really appeal to the American market. Because, like I said, 3 of these 5 games never had an arcade release here. So I don't know. Maybe this is better received in Japan, where people really like that Druaga shit and Pac-Land. I know Pac-Land's a thing there, so.
Look, man, they like fairies, I guess. Maybe.
Do you like fairies?
I do. That's why I'm gonna float over to you.
Would you ever have a fairy as a pal? See, I remembered. See, I made a joke.
I absolutely would. Hopefully, don't steal my shit. But yeah.
Well, let's get your shit. Let's go on to Namco Museum Volume 5.
Floating right over.
All right, guys, as you can tell, that's the end of this installment. You will hear part 3 of Namco Museum, the PlayStation era, probably in another couple weeks. So sit tight, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
We'll see you next time on Fine